The San Francisco 49ers drafted 11 new players over the week, and I would call it a fairly successful weekend for the 49ers. But does Jason Aponte agree? We'll talk NFL draft on the new Sprint Right Option podcast.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. Oh my goodness, we are live. It's a new edition of the Sprint Right Option podcast. I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. And I want to give a lot of credit to Jason Aponte for this weekend. He churned out a lot of content regarding the NFL draft. He was here for day 3 of the draft doing the content, open to Twitter space I saw yesterday. Just all weekend, Jason Aponte. And I am honored to be able to talk to you another day about the draft. How you doing on this Monday afternoon, Monday evening where you're at?
I'm doing great. Thank you for saying that. It was a very successful weekend in terms of growth for the channel, which is great. You know, shout out to everybody who tuned into all of the shows and, you know, giving out those likes and everything as well too helped us grow a little bit. We saw a bump in subscribers and, you know, just excited, I guess, about this draft class and just being able to talk about NFL football and not hypotheticals anymore. I mean, even though technically we've never seen any of these players play, but you know, it was really interesting to get some of the thoughts from people, you know, whether it's in the comments, in the Twitter space, whatever it was. Very interesting to hear everybody's point of view, and I think all of it is necessary. So shout out to all you guys for tuning in this entire weekend.
Yeah, a lot of opinions were thrown out there regarding this draft class for the 49ers, whether people like it or not. It's been a very mixed mash of opinions on this draft class, Jason. I've seen a few just kind of reading articles throughout the day, a bunch of draft grades. You get some people like Todd McShay loving the Niners draft. I saw PF had the Niners with the worst draft in the league. It's kind of hypothetical because none of these players have played on the field, but it is within a realm of something that happened because hypotheticals are mock drafts. Now we're talking about what these players can look like on this team. Yes, the Niners might not have had the sexiest of drafts in terms of the names they selected, but I do believe that the Niners are better 2 days after the draft than they were 2 days before the draft because of who they drafted, Jason. And that's where I stand. I like this draft. I like this group of 11 players, kind of what they can offer for this team, kind of address specific areas, Jason. So were you on the side of good draft or were you more on the PFF side of this draft stinks?
No, it was a good draft. I gave it an overall B. And there is a way to actually put a grade to players who haven't played yet, because I saw a little pushback on that as well too. It's based on scheme, it's based on vision, it's based on fit, it's based on value, all of those things, right? The problem is that draft grades are not final until you see the on-field product. But think about it in this context, and you can look at this one of two ways. The 49ers, out of 11 picks, drafted 5 starters, possibly 6, maybe even 7. Any other draft, you know, people would be glazing. If that was Howie Roseman, glazing. Now, on the other side of that is how barren were the 49ers that they do need these guys to step in right away. I'm not in that category. I'm more in the category of today, the San Francisco 49ers are much better than they were 3 days ago, 4 days ago, whenever the draft started, or was on Wednesday. But you can look at it that way. I'm not choosing to look at it that way just based on the fits. You got your 2 defensive tackles. You got your edge. Those are 3 starters right there. Sounds like Upton Stout's going to start. Marcus Siegel might start off the bat because we got some news about Malik Mustafa, and we're going to find out. So that's another starter. And then the idea that the 49ers did address the offensive line, albeit much later than people wanted, he could be a starter. He could beat out Ben Barch. And, you know, again, if you're just looking at it, if 11 picks, 5 are automatic starters with a chance for it to be 6, 7. How could you not look at that as a successful draft unless you're looking at the glass half empty look and saying they need those starters because of how, you know, in poor shape the roster was?
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to include special teams as well, they drafted a starting punt returner, right? And Junior Bergen, he has 3 punt return touchdowns on 11 returns in 2024. So even from that aspect, if you want to look at Nick Martin, if he doesn't necessarily work as a linebacker, you know, he can be a special teamer. Upton Stout has some special experience as well. So they address multiple places. Siegel has some special teams as well. So that not only did they Yeah, they've gotten better in spots they needed to. I know a lot of people wanted the offensive line to be addressed more, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a little, Jason. But in terms of what actually needed to be addressed, because again, if you look at the Niners offensive line right now, say there's 5 starters. You might not like the 5 starters, but they're 5 starters regardless of who they drafted. You look at the defensive side of the ball, though, and say before the draft, did the Niners have a starting defensive line? I mean, I guess if you want to use the theory of, yeah, they had players, but is it a defensive line you're comfortable with? No. So that's where I'm at with where they kind of adjusted the priorities. But Jason, let's go pick by pick. Let's get into it. Get into the meat and potatoes of it. Round 1, pick 11. The 49ers go Mikel Williams. I know we talked about this at length, obviously, with the first round pick for the 49ers. We talked about it Thursday after it happened, Jason. We talked about it a lot. 2024 stats, 20 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. He's got good power and length, and he's known for his run stopping ability. But if you watch some of that film, Jason, you kind of see some reps where the pass rush works. It comes together. You see it work. He uses that length and strength. I like Mikel Williams. Setting the edge is huge. And again, we talked about it on Thursday when the Niners select him. Run defense needs to be fixed. How do they start that? Setting the edge. And that's what Mikel Williams is going to do. He was probably the best run defender on the edge in draft, and the Niners needed him, and they went and got him. So it's kind of 4 days removed. What are your 4-day removed thoughts of the Mikel Williams selection?
Yeah, I like it. And I want everybody to keep in mind, too, that there was a nagging ankle injury that Mikel Williams was playing through as well, too. So when you look at that, you can add another point to his toughness and say that as well, too. But that's a very much and we're going to this is a constant theme with what I feel about the draft is it's a floor draft with a high variance for a high ceiling. And so the floor is your run defense is already better. Day one. I mean, it can't be any worse. I can say that. Well, it can be, but I doubt it will be, with these additions. But again, setting the edge. But I think there's a floor here of a good pick with it turning into a great pick. And that's kind of the way that you should be looking at it. If you're looking at it from that perspective, you can't be disappointed because day one, Mikel's going to step in. He's the perfect complement, not only for the run defense, but I think pass rushing wise to Nick Bosa. And if we go through the other picks, it has a cascading effect, which leads you to believe that Mikel Williams will be an impact player on day one. Not only the flexibility to be inside and outside, which I suspect that Robert Saleh is going to use him for and find creative ways to navigate pass rush and not just send 4. I think that's definitely the idea here because you have to do that early on while you're developing these guys. But yeah, the run defense is better today than it was last season. That's one thing that everyone complained about. And you have to think of the thinking should be this. You have to stop the run to earn the right to pass rush. That's not my saying. I think I've heard, one of the 49ers players say that, Robert Saleh, something like that. But yes, I really love this pick. I understand the vision for the player. I thought it would be Walter Nolan, but completely fine with Mikel Williams because I see the vision, especially, and this is what we talked about the day of the draft, right? I can't give you a overview of the first round pick without seeing everything, right? Like with all the other draft picks, it comes into focus what this draft class is and what Mikel Williams can be. Because without the other 2 picks at defensive tackle, you might feel worse about the day 1 pick because he would just be on his own. They put complementary pieces around him. You see the vision. Mikel Williams is building block number 1, and I like the pick.
Yeah, and you mentioned the high floor, and I feel like that's a lot of these picks with the 49ers, and I think that's why some people are kind of low on it. They didn't take many chances. They kind of stuck as we've seen the Niners do plenty of times before. I felt like Saturday, I saw it so much of, oh, well, we drafted this player 100 picks higher than the Niners always do that. They have their guys, and Mikel Williams could be. I preferred Jalen Walker in that. You mentioned Walter Nolan. I preferred Jalen Walker. But that high floor situation is why the Niners lean Mikel Williams. Is he's a guy that you trust. He's going to be a starter because he's an NFL ready run stopper. Where Jalen Walker, yes, the potential's there. Like I love Jalen Walker's potential and everything he can be, but Mikel Williams, you know he's going to be day one. Where Jalen Walker, there might be a growth pattern with him where you got to wait him out. Now the Niners have a guy they know 11 is going to step in, be a week 1 starter for the 49ers, and give them production on the edge, which is something they've needed for a while. So I like the pick, especially too after, and I mentioned it on Thursday, after seeing what they did with the defensive line last year, where it was very pass rush heavy on the base. Mal Collins, Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd, they went very pass rush heavy. Now there's some balance, and now it's Robert Saleh. I know a lot of people made fun of Jed York's tweets, but he was absolutely correct about the Robert Saleh enter the room, because that's what the first picks are, is Robert Saleh, guys who he probably identified himself, who can turn around this run defense. And if you look at the tackle for loss numbers for some of these guys, and I know that's not the best way to look at it, Jason, to look at run effectiveness as tackle for loss. Williams 8.5 tackles for loss last season. Alfred Collins 5.5. Nick Martin in 2023, before he tore his ACL in 2024, 60 tackles for loss. Upton Stout 7.5. Same with CJ West. So guys that are going to get in the backfield easily, efficiently, and ideally consistently to be able to stop the runs. That's what the Niners couldn't do last year. So I love the Mikel Williams pick. I probably put it in that B+ A- range because of it. It is a safer pick for me, but I love them for Mikel Williams.
Yeah, again, you need those big boys in the middle to open things up in the wide 9 for everybody. And I think the thought process is trying to rebuild to that 2019 defense where you have those lanes that are open for run defense, and that's where Fred Warner and or Nick Martin, D Winters, whoever, they can make plays in the run game, and it's all cascading, right? Like it starts with the defensive line, it starts with the back end, and all of these things make sense. Again, you don't have to agree with the vision to see the vision, right? Like what I mean is, you may not like the players that are drafted, but it's clear what the 49ers are trying to do. So the vision's clear. And if it really felt like the 49ers, when Robert Saleh came back, they were so sick and tired of looking through Nick Sorensen and all these and Steve Wilkes, and they had an opportunity to get Robert Saleh back, and they would do anything. And Robert Saleh's demands were, I'm going to rebuild this thing from the ground up, and you're going to have to listen to me. And the 49ers said, no problem. You can't complain about the run defense last year and then get upset when the 49ers address the run defense and make the run defense better just because these aren't the splashiest names or the splashiest positions.
Well, let's start looking at the whole picture, Jason. We talked ad nauseum for pick number 1, but let's look at the rest of the draft and how it came together, starting with pick number 43. We talked a little bit on Friday once it happened, Jason. Alfred Collins out of Texas. 2023 had 55 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 7 pass deflections. I'm going to get to that in a second. Disruptive force against the run and matured play recognition. He's the guy you want in the middle of that line, especially if he's a guy next to another guy like, I don't know, CJ West. We'll talk about him in a minute. It feels like the Niners run stopping swagger is back a little bit once I went back and watched Alfred Collins. So a couple days removed from Collins. Jason, where are you at on Alfred?
Big boy in the middle. Yeah, let's add the big boys, right? And here's the thing is, obviously the run defense suffered, and we talked about that, and this is how you improve it. But the difference between 3rd down and being on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 after 2 runs or an incompletion in a run is massively different than 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, right? Like you have to figure out a way to get down a distance so you can put yourself in an advantageous way to rush the passer, because that's when 3rd and 8 is when you can have your turbo group get in there, because obviously you're probably not going to run the football there. But how do you get there is on 1st and 2nd down, you have to be able to stop the run. So this is what they've been thinking. Alfred Collins absolutely fits a need at defensive tackle, and he steps in day one as the guy in the middle who can occupy blocks and is a disruptor. How could you not be excited about this pick? How can you not see the vision for these picks and the defense and say that they didn't have a plan? Like they weren't. Again, their board and the consensus board is 2 different things, and that's been evident since John Lynch took over, right? Like what he told me at the combine in 2024. We just draft good players, and we have characteristics and traits that we look for. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Again, for better or worse, if you feel like that's an issue, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to feel about it, but how do you not look at the way that they built these first 5 picks and see exactly what it is? It doesn't take you to be like a big X's and O's guy. All you have to do is look at last year's run defense and then understand that all these things unlock when you stop the run. You can pass rush. You can pass rush better when it's 3rd and 8, and then that's when you rely on your secondary guys and you rely on your pass rush guys. And then whatever the turbo package may be, whatever the NASCAR package is going to be, whether it's Yitzhak Gross models, Mikel, I'm sure the 49ers are probably going to add another edge rusher as well too, pass rush specialist. Again, I keep floating out the names of Zadarius Smith, so Zadarius Smith won't be on the field for base downs, but on that 3rd and 8, now you've got him out there and you keep him fresh and you rush the passer that way, but you can't rush the passer until you stop the run. Love this pick by Alfred Collins. And again, goes exactly hand in hand with the CJ West pick, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Alfred Collins as well. A lot of talk about his run stopping ability. 7 pass deflections though on the defensive line. Yeah. Crazy. Have you got a chance to watch his game against Florida?
No, not yet.
He forces 2 interceptions in that game. One, he gets his hand up at the line of scrimmage, knocks the ball up into the defender's hand for the interception. And he has another one where he actually, I don't know. Florida wasn't very good at football last year, Jason. We could say that. They tried to block him with a running back, and he just kind of maneuvered his way through it, hit the quarterback's arm as he threw, and then he forced another interception that way. So that's something that got me really excited. Go back and watch his Florida game, and you'll see what I mean. But he just eats space in the run game, and he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop moving. There's a couple times I saw one against Michigan where he did get moved. He got pushed back in the run game on a run play, but he was still able to shift away from it and stop the run for a couple of yards. So that's what the Niners were missing. The Niners were just, you make great points, Jason. It's like the 2nd and 8s, the 3rd and 8s. The Niners weren't in too many of those situations last year. It was a lot of 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, because they're allowing, I mean, hell, it was 2nd and 2s if we want to be honest. It was a lot of 8-yard runs where they were setting up drives. And the Niners are doing their best to avoid that. And Alfred Collins is maybe one of the best names they could have gotten to do that in the 2nd round.
100%. And again, the wide 9, you need defensive tackles who are going to occupy blocks to get edge guys one-on-one moves. Again, when you look at the way that this defense is going to continue to operate, yes, it's going to have solid flavor on it and creativity, but it is still at the core a wide 9 defense, for better or worse. I know there's a lot of discussion about that, but you can't make the scheme work if you don't have the personnel for it. Scheme doesn't lift personnel. Personnel lifts scheme when scheme doesn't always come through, meaning like, better personnel can make plays and things that, sometimes the scheme may fail. But if there's no personnel, then none of it works. So again, this is how they're building their defense. They're building it specifically for their scheme, for their rushing attack. And this is already an improved run defense, because how can it not be improved, because it was so bad last season?
Yeah. Jason, let's move to round 3 now. A lot of good talk on Alfred Collins. Let's move to round 3. Nick Martin at pick 75 of Oklahoma State. 2023, he had 140 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. 2024, he was on pace to do better. He played 5 games, 47 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. He unfortunately tears his ACL. Tell me if this descriptor sounds familiar of a former will linebacker for the 49ers. Small but athletic. Reads a lot like Dre Greenlaw. Plays like his hair's on fire quite a bit. I think Robert Saleh has a type for who he likes to pair next to Warren or Hodgson.
He has a type for everybody on defense, because I think the pick after this is a type of another 49ers former player as well too, and I'll give you my comp for that. But yeah, the Nick Martin pick in the beginning, I'll be honest, I didn't do a lot of work on him, and I didn't do any work on him, and this was my first time hearing his name. So when I said, hey, listen, I'm indifferent because I don't necessarily know, I don't want to make something up, but when I dug into it, I think, one, if you're worried about the draft position and the reach, the 49ers are drafting him based on his 2023 draft stock and where he would have been. And they have their guy. They have the traits that they value. And again, the Greenlaw thing, I'm going to push back just a little bit on it for 2 reasons. One, I just don't think that the size is comparable. He's got to add on some weight and everything. But 2, I do see the similarities, high motor, controlled aggression, right? His missed tackle percentage, when I was watching him, his missed tackle percentage was high because he's running to the ball. He's around the ball. Good thing, but you're overrunning your assignment and you're allowing a missed tackle to happen. So look, I understand what the vision is for this player as well too. You can talk about the value, you can talk about where you would have had him, but the 49ers didn't care because they were looking at it like, if we're going to get that 2023 version of Nick Martin, he's got a very good chance to start right off the bat. And there's nothing wrong with the little competition, because we all know D. Winter's problem is not his skills. It's him finishing out games and being able to keep himself healthy. If in training camp, Nick Martin goes in there and he outplays D. Winters and starts, it's a good thing, because now you have reliable depth next to Fred Warner that you feel comfortable with, and you didn't before. Nothing against Tatum Batoon or Curtis Robinson, but you feel better about this linebacker group now that Nick Martin is in there. And let the best man win in training camp, and let's see what happens.
I call it Chipto. Thank you for correcting. It was a torn MCL, not a torn AL. I like to be correct on that stuff. Made a typo in my notes and read it on the podcast. Look at that. Yeah, listen, and part of what makes this pick work, especially if we're talking about how, if he is a starter in week one, if he does beat out, D. Winters, is that's what Fred Warner allows you to do. Is Fred Warner such a controlled, good, all over the field linebacker where you can get away with having an over aggressive second linebacker, and that's what Martin potentially can be. He's all over the field. He's playing fast. He's playing hot. 140 tackles. That's not a small number. You can't stumble your way. That means he's going out there and trying to make those plays. And 16 tackles for a loss in a season, that's a crazy number too. And that's just his ability. Listen, like, if you want to talk about how this comes together, Jason, we're stacking it together, is on a run play, maybe it's a 2nd and 3 situation, 3rd and 3 situation. You have Hollins and West eat up the space, open up a gap, and you have a guy like Nick Martin who could burst his way through his speed and blow up a play in the backfield like that. So it's how it all comes together, and I'm really excited. I haven't had a chance to watch much on Nick Martin yet. I haven't been able to find much on him in terms of film. I know I could YouTube him probably. I was looking at what I had with my film. I didn't see much, but the more I read about him, the more excited I get. And I mean, you remember the amount of attention Dre Greenlaw got in his rookie camp. It felt like you could go a day without hearing, "Oh, Dre Greenlaw impressed in practice." And I feel like if Martin is there in training camp, with the MCL, see how long that takes to recover, I feel like we can see that type of growth with if he plays like he reads in practice. And I think that's why he probably is a linebacker spot. I mean, D. Winters has had his chances. He's been here a couple years already. But the way Nick Martin reads, he reads like a guy that Robert Saleh is going to like, and he's like a guy who could really impress in camp and impress in the preseason to where he's a starter.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, in 2023, he was super successful as a pass rusher. So this is what I'm talking about with this group and how Robert Saleh is going to have to get creative in creating pass rush while he's waiting for these guys to develop. Listen, if they all develop right away and you can just rush 4 and drop everyone else, great. Should you be setting your watch to that? No. But Nick Martin definitely excelled in moments where they had him come from the second level and be a pass rusher as well too. If the big boys are occupying the blocks, he can slip through and he has the speed to get there and disrupt the quarterback. I do think that they're going to utilize him a little bit differently than Dre Greenlaw, but the Dre Greenlaw comparisons aren't going to slow down based on how hard the young man plays. And to be frank, sometimes he needs to control his aggression and also not overrun some of these tackles so that the comparisons don't stop there. So, again, it's all of these pieces together imply what's going to be coming from the 49ers defense is improved run defense, but the creativity of Robert Saleh is going to get these guys more pressure on the quarterback, but you can't do that again without stopping the run. I'm just going to keep saying it.
He won't get the true Dre Greenlaw comparison for me until he draws at least a couple personal foul penalties when he's not playing. Because Greenlaw did a couple times, and I kind of missed that fire from Dre Greenlaw, which, by the way, interesting weekend for Dre Greenlaw. Sounds like the report was a hamstring injury, calf injury, not as bad as it sounds. He should be good to go. But quad, I believe it's connected to the Achilles. Sounds like he should be good to go, despite what some reports said. So fans like their old players and got a little spooky with Greenlaw, especially with his injury, but sounds like he's good to go. Jason, Niners pick 100. Reports are saying they want to tackle Charles Grant and William and Mary. The Raiders take him at 99. So the 49ers settle for Upton Stout, a cornerback out of Western Kentucky. 2024, he had 52 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, 2 deflections. I believe he had 4 interceptions in 21, if I'm remembering correctly, but hasn't had quite that success in pass coverage. He also didn't targeted much last season. And I mean, we talked about the player comparisons, Jason. We've done it with Nick Martin. I think that a lot of people are going to see a lot of K. Williams. I'm sure you've read that a lot, quite a bit. Run stop slot corner. I watched this game in Alabama yesterday, Jason. I know a lot of people posted that one clip of him at the scrimmage making the tackle. I'm sure you saw it, making the tackle in the backfield. I think the most impressive thing about that play is you know what the score was in that situation? It was 42-0 when he did that. Alabama was whooping Western Kentucky. But then the other thing that I really noticed, and something that maybe got me most excited, was his speed. The only game I watched of his was against Alabama. So just a hand up there. That's all I got. But Jason, I don't know how much follow college football, but there's quite a bit of a talent difference between Alabama and Western Kentucky, at least a little bit. Upton Stout play speed played like he was closer to an Alabama caliber player. I'm not saying in terms of overall talent, but the way he moved, the way he would read things, especially in the run game, if you can get a little bit out of him in coverage, because he's going to be the start. I think he's the starting nickel cornerback week 1 as of right now. If you can get that pass coverage ability, Niners got a hell of a player in this draft because he is so good in the run game.
Yeah, the first thing that jumped out to me, because I did do work on Upton Stout, and I do watch cornerbacks because that's a passion of mine. Same thing with wide receivers. Yeah, that's immediately what I tweeted out. I was like, oh, that's K'Wan Williams. And then you listen to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan say, yeah, that's exactly it. So again, types, right? The 2019 defense, K'Wan Williams is your nickel. And I think there's growth here, a little bit more of an upside. I'm sounding like Mel Kiper now. There's a little bit more upside right here with Upton Stout in terms of what he's able to do coverage-wise. So look, if it means that Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore stick outside and you've got somebody who is essentially an extra linebacker and someone who can cover, especially with the way that the NFL's personnel groupings are more spread out than they've ever been, and very, the only teams that really run what the 49ers run are them and Miami, and they run the 3 wide receiver sets as low as anybody else in the league. You are going to need guys like that, and you are going to need guys who can stick their head in, for run defense as well too. So yeah, I like the Upton Stout move. It does feel like K'Wan Williams, but he could be a lot more, I think, in coverage as well too. You do need that little attitude, and it does seem like when you listen to these guys talk, especially because we're going to talk about the next guy, and he had a really eye-opening quote. These guys have a little nasty streak to them, right? And I think that's what the 49ers are kind of going back to, is like, yes, we need those guys that physically bring it, but we also need those guys that are going to be bought in mentally and are playing hard all the time. And I think that's what they're getting with a lot of these guys. Again, it's not sexy. It's not something where I'm going to tell you, hey, Upton Stout is going to be, the best in the league or anything like that, or for many of these players, but it is fitting and everything as well too. But Robert Saleh has a type, and this entire draft was him nailing down all these guys that he used to have in certain ways in 2019, it felt like.
The other thing Stout gives the 49ers is certainty in the secondary, right? Because instead of maybe getting a guy who could be a tweener where, hey, he could play outside, could play in the slot. No, it feels like the roles are pretty solidified. I think Lenore and Renardo Green are your outside corners. I know Lenore has a lot of, reps in the slot. But Upton Stout, he's not going to be an outside corner. So the roles are set, and I think that's something that's valuable for the 49ers. And again, this is another player that's going to help in that run game because they've needed it. 7.5 tackles for a loss at the cornerback, at the slot corner. That's nothing to lift your nose at. And it's just, again, attitude. He had a hold call. I think that's something that I think it was Dane Brugler's the Beast mentioned is that aggressiveness is going to hurt him. He's going to give us some Stout coverage. If you want to talk about all-time names, Jason Aponte, Upton Stout is up there. Upton Stout just feels like, I don't know, like just name value alone, the Niners guy.
Dude sounds like he chops down trees with his bare hands, just like an axe. Like that's the type of, like, that type of name would imply somebody who's like 6'7". He may not be that, and he's a lot smaller than that, but the size of the dog and something like that in a fight or whatever, I think that's what they're looking for.
All right, Jason, let's move to round 4 now. And this is the pick that I think the most people excited. I don't know what it is.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I've seen more people excited about pick 113 than 43. That's CJ West out of Indiana, a Hoosier, Jason, upon 2024 40 tackles, 7.5 tackles for lost 2 sacks. Dane Brugler mentioned in The Beast that he hates to be blocked, which is a quote. And I believe his Instagram bio is "I hate quarterbacks." So just mindset
And I hate
right
centers.
there. Reads like an NFL level run stopper with a pass rush upside. So, Jason, CJ West, what are your thoughts on your Hoosier?
Yeah, by the way, Upton Stout, really raised his stock as well in the Senior Bowl, and he went up against a lot of good competition from different colleges, and he was one of the better coverage guys, especially in those drills that we were talking about, where they're not designed for the secondary member to be good. It's almost easy. Like if you win these, then you're really going to be good. So just little last closing thing on Upton Stout. Now taking it to CJ West, in the Senior Bowl, he was doing it again. Like, and then he was winning his one-on-ones. He has that nasty streak, like Andrew talked about. I hate centers. I hate quarterbacks. I'm here to blow things up. Again, you need these types of players with this type of physical, profile, and also how they are looking at attacking the opposition. Everything about this feels good because now you feel markedly better about the defensive tackle position. Obviously, Evan Anderson's going to get in there. Kevin Gibbons, you're going to find Sammy O at in the rotation. Outside. Not necessarily as much inside. But now you feel much better about where this defensive line is, given all of the people that left, right? And again, the 49ers have been looking to replace DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, but they've been replacing them with players whose skill set is only one or the other, not both. Javon Hargrave's a pass rusher, so is Malik Collins. Jordan Elliott's a run stuffer. He doesn't rush the passer. That, like, finding that right mixture, it's been really hard, but now you have guys that are going to be stable as run defenders with the chance to grow as pass rushers as well too. Again, you're on the clock, Chris Kosurik. I need to see all these defensive linemen take a step up. I need you to lift these draft picks up if you're the guy that they say you are. So again, you love the pick, you understand the vision, you see the schematic fit, and you see how this is going to work. CJ West is he has a nasty streak, man. And again, go Hoosiers, man. It's not the last time we're going to talk about a Hoosier, though.
So this is the 5th defensive player the 49ers took in 5 picks, obviously. And again, it's just a guy that we talk about the run thing. All 5 of these guys, we're talking run stop. It's so obvious what not only Robert Saleh did, because I think the thought of Robert Saleh making these picks by himself got a little over exaggerated over the weekend. It's obvious John Lynch was in on this as well, and Kyle Shanahan, and the run stopping again. If we're talking about the biggest need, Jason, and we talked about it at the top, offensive line or run stopping. Well, the Niners offensive line 2 years ago was good enough to make a Super Bowl. Last year took a step back, but it wasn't. I think we got to remember what the difference is between a league average offensive line versus a bad offensive line looks like, right? And the Niners more league average than bad. The Niners told us the issue was, and that was the run defense, and that they are hoping fixes this team. And I think personally, just the defensive side of the ball, it's enough. And CJ West is on top of it, just a big guy who's going to eat up space. And again, the thing that I like is the pass rush upside. And this is, again, you mentioned it, Chris Kosurik, Robert Saleh got to develop these. Same with Mikel Williams. You see it. Now we need to untap it. And this is going to be a project. It's going to be a little bit of project with CJ West, at least on the pass rush. But I feel really good about the Niners run defense right now. And that was never the case last season.
100%. And again, you can't in one breath tell me that you hated last year's run defense, and then when the 49ers go out there and address the run defense, say, like, what the hell are they doing? It's clear. Look, last year, the offense, for whatever you guys want to think about it, and I think they really struggled in the red zone, we're still a top 5 offense in, yards per play and everything as well, too. So, and that's without Christian McCaffrey. That's without Brandon Ayuk. That's without Deebo Samuel at his best. You have to think that the offense is still going to shoulder more of the load, pause, for this season, where they're gonna cover up some of the mistakes for the defense. Now, the defense, what they have to do is they have to get off the field and stop the run and things like that. They can't just get worn out all game. But The offense wasn't necessarily the problem with the San Francisco 49ers last year. The defense was, because the offense can't do anything if the defense is just getting gashed over and over again. Again, they're addressing it, but again, the cascading effect is if the defense improves, the run defense improves, and his defense improves, I think it will, then the offense can still be it's not going to be as good as it was in 2023 because it was historically good. But if you can still be that team that can move the football the same way the 49ers do, and you have the Ricky Pearsall, project coming up, and then you have Brandon Ayuk returning, and you add DeMarcus Robinson, and Christian McCaffrey's healthy, and Isaac Guerrero takes a step, then you really look at this offense and you say, this is going to be the way that the 49ers mitigate some of these shortcomings that'll happen, because these guys are rookies and they are going to have their growing pains. Live with the growing pains, but ask your offense and ask Kyle Shanahan to lift with your offense while the defense is getting itself up to date.
Well, Jason, a player that might help that offense continue to do well is pick 138, wide receiver Jordan Walker out of Ole Miss. Last season, 49 receptions, 906 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 drops. Can win over the top 5 catches of 60 or more yards in 2024. Projects best in the slot, which I mean, the Niners haven't had a true slot receiver in a long time, but just kind of whoever fits that moment. So maybe it's going a little bit away from the Deebo Samuel all-in-one types to maybe more specific roles in the offense. Jason, you're the wide receiver guy on this podcast. What would you think on Watkins?
Yeah, watching a lot of Trey Harris, Watkins is evident, right? And I think that's where Watkins kind of fell a little bit because everybody was so in on Trey Harris. By the way, I love what the Chargers did by drafting Trey Harris, and now you have Ladd McConkey in the slot and Omarion Hampton. My God, that offense, they're giving Justin Herbert the right weapons. But Watkins, obviously is speed. What we saw this season from the wide receivers was lack of separation, lack of yak. You're starting to get into now how do we do that right there? And you bring in somebody who's this fast. Also, punt returner. So what does this mean for me? It means that while he's getting himself up to speed, because it's hard to assume that right away, day one, he's going to have an impact given how wide receivers, track record is with Kyle Shanahan. Maybe Jacob Cowan gets on the field. Maybe, use the guy who's really good at route running, who Ted McMillan said over the draft time, that's the best wide receiver I've ever played with. So if you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, obviously special teams and run defense were the ones that struggled the most, the units that struggled the most. So you got a special teams guy, could allow Jacob Cowan to get on the field a little bit more. And worst case scenario, he's all 3. If he jumps people on the depth chart, then he's a speed guy, he's a yak guy, he's also somebody who can return punts. I understand exactly what this Watkins thing is, but he jumps off the screen because I was watching Trey Harris, and there's always one of these slants that he just takes 60 yards to the house. That speed is evident, and what the 49ers have kind of been chasing with their position players, and that's why they've gone here, and also addressing the special teams as well too, by making sure that you have someone who is designed, can punt return. Cowan did it a little, but I feel like he wasn't always as comfortable. Watkins can do it while he's getting up to speed as a wide receiver, and it may allow Jacob Cowan to get into the playbook and be more of a route runner, because I still believe in the young man, because I think he's a great wide receiver.
And this felt like a pick where Shanahan said, okay, guys, we got 5 defense. Can I like my guy? Can I get my guy? And the more I read on Jordan Watkins, he seems like that type who can take nothing, turn it into something. And that Shanahan loves those guys, especially receiver in the receiving core. So I'm excited to see what that over-the-top speed can do for the 49ers. They haven't really had kind of like a true slot. They haven't really had an over-the-top guy. They have guys who get open deep, but not a consistent over-the-top guy. So I'm curious to see what Jordan Watkins, kind of how he develops and see what role he plays, especially with the – I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty with the Niners receiving core right now, right? It's do you know how good Ricky Pearsall is? Is Brandon Ayuk going to be who he's been in the past? Jawan Jennings is solid, but can he take that next step to be a little more consistent? DeMarcus Robinson, he's going to be suspended the first couple of weeks. And then Jacob Cowan. So there's a lot of questions. So where Jordan Watkins fits in, I'm curious to see, but that's for what camp and what Summer is going to tell us. And I'm just excited because it seems like Shanahan got somebody he likes. And again, with receivers, it's kind of hit or miss. Is it a Dante Pettis or is it a Brandon Ayuk? We'll see. But we'll see where he fits with kind of this uncertain receiving core.
Yeah, and something that I think is a little bit, I guess, overlooked as well too is Watkins can play outside and then kick Jawan Jennings inside, and I think that only helps Jawan Jennings a little bit more. Again, he experienced a lot of success out of the X position, but it wasn't based on him being able to get himself open. It was how do we put these route combinations together where the ball will be there as well too. So I think putting Jawan Jennings back in a familiar spot at times, again, I still think that Jawan Jennings is going to start at X. But if you want to get creative and now you want to use Watkins as a way to kind of clear the top open and then have Jawan Jennings as the big slot again and get him back in those places on third down, I don't think that's a bad thing either. So there's a lot of interesting ways the 49ers can go about their wide receiver group with the combinations as well too. All of it starts with development from Jacob Cowing and Ricky Pearsall, and you feel more comfortable about those guys going forward. But there's still ways that the 49ers can utilize all these guys in different ways to give defenses fits. And I think that's really exciting about this as well too.
More than halfway through the 49ers 2025 draft class. Great time to remind everybody, if you haven't already, subscribe to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. A lot of great content came out over the weekend, live reactions to the draft selection. A lot of great content is going to come out this week as well.
Likes. Get those likes up. Everybody, if you're in here, we got 56 people in here. We should have 56 likes. I appreciate you guys. The like helps us out so much more and helps us get discovered.
Make sure to like this video. Speaking of liking player, I really like Jason. Pick 147, round 5, right back Jordan James out of Oregon. 2024, 233 carries for 1,267 yards and 15 touchdowns. 36.5% of his rush last season resulted in a first down or touchdown, which is pretty good. And then Dane Brugler's note, has talent to ascend up the depth chart. Listen, I'm not going to complain the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey. I'm not going to complain. That's not a bad thing. Kind of wish they didn't, because I'd be curious to see what an Isaac Guerrero Jordan James battle would look like. I watched one game. I watched him against Ohio State. Boy, oh boy, I really like him. He's not going to hit a lot of home runs for you. I think he was like 5th in the nation with 10-yard runs, but he only had 3 runs go more than 20 yards. So he's not going to be a big swinger. But I mean, I guess going back to Jed York's tweets, if a Hall of Famer likes you, we should draft you. And that was insinuating that Frank Gore liked Jordan James enough for the 49ers to take him. But how aggressively he finds holes and he hits them. Maybe not the best runner in the second level, but I mean, if that could continue in the NFL, I'd really interested to see what an Isaac Guerrero Jordan James backfield battle look like. So Jason, what are your thoughts on James?
I thought the 1-for-1 comp I thought was a little bit Devonta Freeman, but if you want a closer comp for what he can be and how he can be successful as a 49er than Jordan Mason. Funny enough, Jordan for Jordan, it's the same type of player, right? Like he's very good understanding his blocks, setting those up, getting what's in front of him, tough to take down, not exactly a burner, but he's going to be that type of player. If you believed in Jordan Mason, then this guy like really looks like him as well too. So again, what is he going to be? The 49ers bring in a undrafted free agent. Who wants to bet that undrafted free agent goes ahead and kills it in training camp as well too? But when you're looking at the skill set and you see the vision for the player, I see someone who directly mirrors somebody that they're trying to replace as they moved him to Minnesota. And the same way and the same type of player, not exactly fast, but understands the scheme, very violent runner, and somebody who can hit the hole when it's there. I like this Jordan James pick. Not the guy that I would have chosen. DJ Giddens was on the board. I would have went with him. I would have went with someone else maybe. But again, the 49ers have a style. The 49ers have traits. They have a type, and Jordan James falls right into that. And again, Frank Gore, not very fast, not a burner, but on this, it's tough yards. If you need 2, you need 3, get everything. If he's on board, then you know what? I'll defer to number 21.
Well, the biggest comparison I can make with Frank Gore, if we're going to do that, I like the Jordan May comparison. But the thing that Frank Gore did a lot was when he would get hit, he would carry a run or 2-3 extra yards, right? That's how he finished all his runs. And at least in the Ohio State game, that's what Jordan James was doing. He would greet contact, be happy to take that contact, and he had no problem carrying runners. That's what I liked about him, is he would carry tacklers 2, 3, 4 more yards. And he would never finish a run by giving up. He would go through tacklers instead of letting tacklers go through him. So that's what I'm excited. Yes. Does he need a little bit more home run sweep speed? Sure, absolutely. But I'm sure if you give Kyle Shanahan a running back who can consistently get you 10 yards, with the 5th most 10 yards runs in 2024 in college football, I don't think Shanahan's going to turn that opportunity down. And so the more I see Jordan James, the more I think he's a Shanahan type runner. And I'm again, we have all these thoughts on Jordan James and Isaac Guerrero for come down to Christian McCaffrey's 90% of the carries next season. But how those 10% get split between James and Guerrero is going to be very interesting if James looks at least what he did at Oregon.
Yeah, 100%. And I see, we're talking about offensive line. Gojira Von Jinx says, too bad they didn't get an offensive tackle last year in the best offensive tackle draft in a generation. Well, I'll say this. Thank God they didn't draft Kingsley Su'Yamaida or Roger Rosengarten because, man, Su'Yamaida not only was so bad that he got benched, they went right to Jalen Moore, and then they drafted Josh Simmons, who had a patellar tendon. So thank you for not drafting Kingsley Su'Yamaida because he is #not good.
Yeah. We got a couple more picks before we get to the offensive lineman, Jason. Let's get to the another defender the Niners took, the last defender the Niners took. Safety Marquise Siegel, 2024, 60 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections, 3 interceptions. He didn't commit a coverage penalty in 2024. He's a rangy run defender. And kind of like we didn't talk about it with Stout, but Siegel also, he lined up in a few different positions within the secondary. I think he's more of a safety than anything else. But the news that came out maybe 2 hours after the draft that Malik Mustafa re-aggravated. I'm just the word re-aggravated.
Re-injured?
ACL.
Aggravated, I guess.
He didn't tear his ACL. He had an ACL surgery a couple years ago, and I guess the strain or the piece of whatever holding it together popped in the last game. So it's a little more complex than just a straight ACL. Still not really sure what his role is or in terms of timeline. He's going to miss any time or if he's going to miss half the season. So we'll see what happens there. But I guess with that, Siegel, a decent pick because now the Niners have him, Jair Brown, and Malik Mustafa as their safeties. And Mustafa, you don't know when he's coming back.
And Jason Pinnock will be in there as well, too. But when you watch Siegel, you watch somebody who blew it out at the combine, like blew it out, like super speed, obviously 40-yard dash, 10-yard split, all that stuff. But somebody who could be moved around, all over the field as well, too. You can play him a little in the slot. You can play him up top. I do think that the idea for Siegel is to be able to have him play center field as a single high safety and allow Malik Mustafa to roam that box and play it like a little bit faster and get to those short area throws or the running game as well too. Again, Siegel is somebody who can be good in coverage, but again, run defense. And I think that's the goal with him is we're going to figure this out. At first, you look at him and you say, hey, he has a really good chance to start. Now, if Malik Mustafa is not ready for week 1, it's almost like written in pen that he's going to start. So again, another starter, right? But the idea is to pair him with Mustafa. Sure, they're going to give Jair Brown another look. And I think that Robert Saleh is probably interested in trying to figure out how to fix him, put him in positions to win. I still will root for Tig. I think that he's a great young man, and I hope the best for him. But if not, Siegel is here to start, and Siegel's here to start next to Mustafa. And I think that Siegel can unlock a little bit more from Mustafa and have him play closer to the line of scrimmage where he can wreak more havoc and just play like a man with like his hair on fire. How many times are we going to say hair on fire? But that's exactly what they kind of want to do.
It's a good saying, and I mean when you're talking run defense, you got to have a little bit of the hair on fire.
If my hair was on fire, wouldn't I stop, drop, and roll?
You'd stop, drop, and roll after making a tackle on Kyler Murray, right? That's you get in the hole and then you stop, drop, and roll. I think that's what it would be. That's the best I got, Jason. I don't know where the saying came from.
Right. I like dissecting phrases like that. Like, what is it? Like, the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, how many straws is he carrying? Like that's a lot. Or, again, we talked about it, eggs in a basket. Why wouldn't I put all my eggs in a basket? How else am I going to carry them? Do I carry one at a time in all different baskets? Like, some of these sayings, like I just want to dissect them a little bit further and figure out what they mean. Like I know what they mean and what people are trying to say, but if I was shopping and I'm going to put one egg in a basket and then one egg in another basket. Like 12 eggs carried in 12 baskets seems counterproductive. That's all I'm saying.
And expensive at this point, Jason Aponte.
Right.
Round 7, in round 7, another Hoosier off the board. Pick 227 quarterback Curtis Rourke. I think this was the most obvious selection. Jason, you told me about this pick maybe 2 months ago. The Niners are going to take him. 222 for 320 in 2024, 3,042 yards, 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Led the Indiana Hoosiers to the college football playoff, the new 12 team. But hey, by the way, did I mention he played last season on a torn ACL? Which is going to come out, I believe, for the 2025 season. Not that the Niners were going to need him. The Niners draft him. The one thing that Shanahan really seemed to like about him was he was big. And then that was really the thing that Shanahan talked a lot. I think 6'4", 2 something. So he's not a small quarterback. Jason, another Hoosier off the board. What do you think about Curtis Rourke?
Hoosiers. Look, this is such a Kyle quarterback in terms of processing and where the ball's supposed to go. That's kind of what my thinking was. And that for Curtis Rourke to be the only pick that I nailed out of this draft, it almost feels like I shouldn't get credit for it at all because I did all this work on all these other players. I wanted the 49ers to run up the card for Jalen Noel at 75. Didn't happen. But, Rourke is just like, again, when you have success and with finding Brock Purdy, why wouldn't you keep trying in that same way at the end of the draft? So he has all of the Kyle's traits. I think for one, and this is a big thing that Kyle looks for in quarterbacks, does he see the game the way I see the game? Does he see it how I see it? That'll help. But timing, processing, all of that stuff, bigger guy, felt like it was just a lock for Kyle Shanahan to say, listen, this is what I'm going to do with my late round quarterback. And that's what it is. Probably ends up being the emergency third quarterback. It'll be Brock, Mack, and then him. But you kind of get where they're going with this one just to see if they can, duplicate some magic here with the way that they scouted Brock Purdy and everyone else kind of let him fall. Why not try it again, especially since it's such a low risk, high reward, type of deal.
Niners follow pick 227 with 249. They take their only offensive lineman of the draft. Interior offensive lineman Connor Colby out of Iowa. Played mostly right guard in college. He played one season where he split his time between both tackles. Potential backup in his own blocking scheme is what Dane Brugler had. Jason, everyone wanted one. There's your offensive line.
Connor Colby is good, man. And he went to Iowa. Obviously, George Kittle probably has some influence on this, but first team All Big Ten, third team All Big Ten the year before. Very, very good as a zone blocker. You understand the vision when you see this as well, too. Again, if the 49ers find themselves in a position where Connor Colby is a 7th-round pick and he beats out Ben Barch for the left guard position, I think we've talked about it. Spencer Burford is your backup left tackle moving forward. Like, that's the best way that you can put it. But, it gives you more depth at the position because when Barch was called upon, he did do very well. I think right now it's safe to say that Barch is the placeholder, but wouldn't be shocked if we hear a lot about Connor Colby and how well that he's done, that he does enough to push, Ben Barch at least a little bit, which is a good thing. It feels like more of a depth move than anything, but I like the pick. I think he fits very well. Again, I see the vision for the player, and he's somebody who can step in when needed. And if he's going to be great in zone blocking, then that's exactly what you're looking for. But again, he has a little bit of a nasty streak, so I like it.
I thought I saw this, but I haven't been able to find. I think he's somebody you could kick to center, or do you think he's just as a guard in general?
I think they'll have him as a guard. I can't project him going to center because it's literally the difference between being like a shortstop and a right fielder, like two different completely positions. But if they feel like that, that's fine. I would probably say that the 49ers stick with Nugent, Hennessy, and Brundle, and see, what they can find with those guys as well, too. I think the idea is Colby's there to play left guard, and if he can be the everyday left guard or every year left guard, then you've got insane value in the 7th round, especially with the way that the 49ers, the way that they care about the offensive line so much. That's fine. But, hey, I like the Connor Colby pick. I think the young man is a fit, and I think he's somebody who has that Midwest, kind of grit that you need from your lineman.
Niners close the draft out, pick 252, wide receiver Junior Bergen out of Montana. Maybe not much as a receiver, but it seems like Shanahan was interested in his punt returning abilities. 3 punt returns on 11 attempts in 2024. His career, he had 8 punt return touchdowns on 69 returns. Jason, I think we know how talented he is as a punt returner. My question is, what do you think this means for Jacob Cowing? Jacob Cowing was the Niners punt returner last season. Do you think this maybe opens him up to be more of a receiver type now that the Niners ideally have a set returner?
That's what I was saying about Watkins. I think Watkins is your punt returner. I think Bergen is more of a kick returner. I think the only other player in Big Sky Conference history that had more yards per return was some guy named Cooper Kupp. Now, here's the issue. There are 11 draft picks. Do all 11 of these guys make 53-man rosters? So this pick right here, you see what it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a lock to make this roster. If you think about the wide receiver room, I don't know who he jumps, but I do see the idea. I do think the idea was to get a punt returner and a kick returner, so we don't have to worry about this with Jacob Cowing, and we can just get him into not worrying about that. Let's get him into his route tree because I do think he is a good player. I see the vision for Bergen. I just wonder if he's going to make this team just based on the fact that you do have DeMarcus Robinson, Brandon Ayuk's going to return, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing. That's 5 off the rip right now. Watkins is number 6. Who does he jump at this point? So it's going to be interesting to see how he makes this team. And if it's just, I don't know if it'll just be based on special teams. So I see why he's here, but it's no lock that he's going to make this team because there's just so many other receivers that are ahead of him right now.
Jason, there was the 11 selections for the 2025 49ers NFL draft. There were 6 undrafted free agents signed by the 49ers. Just run through those really quick. Linebacker Stone Blanton out of Mississippi State. Running back Corey Kiner out of Cincinnati. Offensive lineman Drew Moss out of Colorado, which somebody in the chat mentioned him. Wide receiver Isaiah Nayor out of Nebraska. Cornerback Jacob Robinson out of BYU, seen a little bit on him as well. And defensive lineman Sebastian Valdez in Washington. Anybody stand out there, just kind of undrafted free agents, or what do you think?
Corey Kiner for sure. I mean, if we're thinking about undrafted free agent running backs and who does well, then you know he's a lock, right? At this point to be somebody who we're like, you drafted a guy and he's better than him, and like again, it's a running joke at this point. But I do think it's like that. And Isaiah Nayor. I think that's somebody who I'm really intrigued by. Again, if I just said all that stuff about Bergen, I do think Nayor is a better route runner and is a better receiver. I mean, he has a huge catch radius. You know, he can play up top. He's a contested catch guy. I think he's the guy that I would feel a little bit more comfortable if I was talking about him and Bergen in a competition to actually sneak onto the roster. But it depends on what the 49ers value. If they really like Bergen in the return game, they're going to find a way to put him on the roster. But Nayor's probably a better route runner than he is and a better receiver. So I would say him and Kiner because who couldn't see the undrafted free agent outshining the actual draft pick of the 49ers? You know, I mean, I know Elijah Mitchell was drafted, but it was at the end of the draft. He's already better than, you know, Trey Sermon and CDP and all those guys, right? Same thing, Jordan Mason. You know, you find them a little bit later. So I think if we're going to go with the running joke in the past history, how could you not look at Kiner and say, this is a guy who's going to tear it up all training camp?
Yeah, and I just have a good history with them to running back. So we'll see what it ends up being. Obviously, if you're undrafted free agent, chances you make the fee3 a little decrease, but you never know. You never know what happened. They also invited Bentley Henshaw of Liberty, Sinclair of Stanford, Jack Howell, Colorado, Ty of West Virginia. That's the upcoming rookie mini with a shot to make the roster. So I guess it's 11 players drafted, 6 signed, and then 4. So 21 new players on the 49ers, Jason. A very successful draft weekend there. I, again, said at the top, I like it as a whole. I think if you look at individual pieces, you can nitpick how you may. But as a whole, it was very obvious the 49ers had a vision for this draft was going to be, and they went out and executed. So ideally, your defense looks like 2025.
Yeah, how could you not look at this team as an improvement? And again, if you have 5 starters out of 11 with a chance for it to be 7, that's a successful draft. If that was Howie Roseman, they'd be glazing this man into the sun, you know. But I think because of the reaches and whatever it is, and again, the 49ers board is completely different. But I like this draft. I'm going to give it a B with a chance to change it if the on-field results bear themselves out. So, yeah, I mean, again, how could you not be excited? Because this team is better day one than they were, going into the draft. And, that's easy to say just based on, obviously you better hope that they're better with the draft. But I think what they attacked and how they built out this draft is it's not only made them better, but it's also raised their ceiling for the season based on you know who they brought in as well too. Shout out to everybody in here, 62 people. If you're here, just drop a like. That's all I'm asking, guys. Really appreciate it. It helps us out, get seen on the algorithm, and helps us grow. Shout out to all the channel members in here. I saw Vish and I saw a few other people in here as well too. Gojira, you know, appreciate you guys. You guys help keep the lights on, man, so we appreciate you.
Appreciate every one of you. Jason, so mention any preview what the content is this week around the state franchise? Like, what do you got?
Tomorrow, Bully Ball with Steph. We're gonna compare this draft class to the other draft classes, and you know, again, try to project. You know, that's all we're doing right now at this point. We'll see Hollywood Brad. I don't know, man. You know, Brad's just too Hollywood right now to you know answer back anything like that. But yeah, we'll probably be back Friday, and you know, we'll figure it out intermittently here and there or whatever. But thank you guys. I did leave a poll on the channel as well for which player you're most excited about. So go check that out on the channel and, you know, drop your vote. And if it's not one of the 4 guys, because they only allow 4 options, then write in your name of the player that you're most excited for the draft class and what you think about him.
Jason, not only on Jason Aponte's YouTube channel can you find our content, ninernation.com as well. Jason been writing a lot of things. I've been writing some things. I got my draft and review probably going to come out on a Wednesday, just kind of looking at the whole look at especially the run game aspect of it, kind of compare it to previous years, all versus 2024. So I'm looking forward to it. A lot of good content coming out, Jason. The next big thing on the calendar, now that the beast of the draft is out of the way, May 14th, we're going to know the order of the 49ers schedule, who they play when and where and how and why and all that stuff. You know, the NFL loves to announce the NFL schedule release preview date, and they know that I believe during one of the first round, 14th was the day, or May 14th was the date. So that'll be the next big thing on the calendar, Jason. Until then, a lot of draft talk, a lot of dissecting, a lot of looking at everything, every angle. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, Jason, because it was a good draft. I'm right with on that B plus area in terms of where they had, with the potential of maybe even going A- because of who they drafted. Roles are going to send to. So Jason, a lot of exciting content to get to, not just from me, but from Jason Aponte as well.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm probably going to write something in a little bit right now, and we'll have it up for the morning. But yeah, you know, that place that I'm not going to name that we write for that gets everybody so upset. Check out that website because we have a lot of stuff on there.
Perfect, Jason. It was great talking with you. Great podcast, Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. B plus draft.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Sprint ride option.